In a flurry of legislative activity ahead of an April 30th deadline, the Indiana General Assembly ended its 2015 session with the passage of a $31 billion budget. Governor Mike Pence touted the close of the so-called Education Assembly session as one marked by historic investments in education, innovation, and reform. The state budget increases funding for education across the board with a 2.3% increase next year, the biggest jump in the state's history. The governor thanked members of the assembly for advancing reforms that he says will benefit Indiana kids, families, teachers, and schools. However, House Democratic leader Scott Pilaf disagrees with the governor's assessment, saying that for education and Hoosiers in general, the budget comes up short.
We are not reinvesting in our now 4 systems of education to ensure that every child is going to have the opportunity to benefit and acquire the skills that are going to be needed in the future to earn a better wage and be able to provide for a family and for future generations.
The budget continues funding for the state's pilot pre-kindergarten program, On My Way Pre-K, and eliminates the cap on school vouchers. Representative Donna Harris, Democrat from East Chicago, has been appointed to 4 committees in the Indiana State House. Harris was sworn into office on April 20th to fulfill the term of her husband, Representative Earl Harris, who died on March 23rd. Michigan City House Democratic leader Scott Pilaf named Harris as the ranking Democratic member of the House Statutory Committee on Interstate and International Cooperation. She'll also be a member of the Government and Regulatory Reform, Judiciary, and National Resources Committees. Harris, whose term in office runs until November of 2016, was the representative called upon to adjourn the 2015 legislative session. This week, Indiana Superintendent of Public Instruction Glenda Ritz announced Indiana's 4-star schools for 2013-2014. A total of 281 schools achieved this designation, including more than 30 here in Northwest Indiana. A school must be in the top 25th percentile of schools in 2 I-STEP-based categories and earn an A in the state's accountability system in order to receive the reward. Superintendent Ritz said the 4-star designation is a testament to the excellent work done by teachers, administrators, students, and parents throughout the year. You can find the complete list of the award-winning local schools on our website. Do you or your children attend a Region 4-star school? Let us hear from you on social media with the hashtag NWIPride. Since February, almost 1,100 strikers have been walking the picket line outside of British Petroleum's Whiting refinery, but now it looks like they might be getting back to work. This week, representatives of Whiting's BP refinery and United Steelworkers Union 7-1 reached a tentative contract agreement. If ratified, the contract would end the months-long strike. BP spokesperson Scott Dean told Lakeshore Report that both labor and management sought an agreement that would ensure the continued safety of the refinery, fairly compensate employees, and improve the competitiveness of business. Dean says the company is pleased to have a tentative agreement in place and will work towards getting everyone back to work as soon as possible. Union representatives will meet again next week to ratify the contract. Students from Indiana University Northwest's Brother to Brother Student Success Program are helping to keep Gary clean with an effort they hope will have an impact long after Earth Day. Some 30 students and volunteers picked up trash in a 5-block area near the intersection of 35th and Tennessee Streets in Gary this week. The effort was inspired by National Earth Day on April 25th. Some of the other participants included City of Gary's 5x5 program, Arise Gary, and the women of Delta Sigma Theta and Alpha Kappa Alpha sororities. Organizers say the event helps students learn to take pride in their community.
This cleanup is important because we're building bridges between the university and the community. We're coming out and we're cleaning up all the garbage and debris to make the community better for Earth Day.
Indiana University Northwest Brother to Brother Student Success Program is a minority male retention program that promotes academic support and professional development to help ensure that more minority students graduate from IUN. As Mother Nature warms up the region, some Good Samaritans are doing good for some of Northwest Indiana's smallest citizens by going outside and taking a nice long walk. The March of Dimes is hosting several March for Babies events where residents walk to raise money and awareness for premature babies. This week, tiny Gabriela Porades was chosen as the Porter and LaPorte County ambassador for a 5-mile event in Valparaiso. Gabriela weighed in less than 2 pounds when she was born. March of Dimes says 1 out of every 9 births in the United States is premature. Supporters say Gabriela's story has had a huge impact on improving the health of babies.
It raises awareness to all the babies that are born prematurely. I never thought it would happen to me. I mean, my daughter was born 4 days before my due date. You never think it would happen to you until it's too late, and it does.
It's about saving kids, and it's about mainly they're trying to make it to where babies are much more better.
So far, supporters from Porter County March of Dimes have raised more than $40,000. The next event is set for May 3rd in Highland. For more information, you can visit www.marchforbabies.org. Well, we're just a few short days away from Indiana primary elections on May 5th. We'll be taking a look at some closely watched mayoral races. Plus, we'll hear from our own Steve Walsh about a local threat to the health and well-being of your pet. That's all still to come on Lakeshore Report.
Lakeshore Report wants to hear from you. Send your thoughts, concerns, questions, and story ideas to tvfeedback@lakeshorepublicmedia.org. You can also reach us on Facebook and Twitter at Lakeshore Report. Make sure to tweet us using the hashtag NWIPride and you may see your comments on air. Lakeshore Report, providing you region-focused content.
With less than a week until voters sound off on who they want to be their next city leaders, some mayoral candidates are tackling the issues and making their best case with public debates. All month long, Lakeshore Report has been following these political forums. This week, our own Steve Walsh was moderator for the Hammond mayoral debate. While two of the three candidates were at odds on many points, they spoke to Hillary Powell about the one pressing issue they both have in common.
Mr. McDermott has committed municipal malpractice.
At the Hammond mayoral debate this week, two of the three candidates for the city's highest office used fired-up speech to talk about the hot topic of the night, the city's money drought and what to do with water revenue.
But there is going to be one more empty building on May 6th, and that's your campaign headquarters, Council.
The prime issue in this debate boiled down to the depth that this city is in. If we trust this mayor to the depth that we have right now, I mean, look at the city of East Chicago, $15 million in debt. They paid it off. They're debt-free.
We are drowning in $97.1 million in debt, a river of no return.
Councilman Homero Chico Hinojosa, who spent 12 years serving on the city council, told Mayor Tom McDermott Jr. he wants the city to pay down debt as a priority. The Democratic candidates don't agree on how to best pay down what current Mayor Tom McDermott says is the city's $95 million debt.
Cities have debt. Like I pointed out, Hammond has $95 million in debt. The city of Portage, which is twice as small as us, has more debt than us. And Portage is doing well. Sometimes debt makes sense. Like I said, I took $25 million of debt out to create the Cabela's development area, and that's worth close to $40, $50 million now.
All city council members except Hinojosa approved McDermott to get a $36.5 million bond issue that McDermott says will deal with the debt.
I voted no on this $36.5 million because I knew that we were deeply in debt.
McDermott says using the city's water sales to nearby Chicago communities has supported programming like the College Brown program to give full ride scholarships to high school graduates and can help pay off the bond.
We increased the sale of water to Illinois communities by 800%. I use water every single day. I shower with it, I cook with it, I drink with it. There's huge companies in Chicago Heights and Cali City that rely on this water, and there's no other alternative for these communities. They can't build a filtration plant or build a pipeline without spending hundreds of millions of dollars. They can't buy it from Chicago. They could buy it from Chicago, but Chicago's even more expensive than Hammond is.
With mounting city debt, shuttered buildings like these, and a dwindling population, Councilman Hinojosa calls downtown Hammond the boulevard of empty buildings. He says spending less, not more, is the only way to remedy this.
The only way you're going to succeed in the city is be debt-free. They're not obligated to buy all their water from the city of Hammond. That spigot can be cut off at any time, and we need to be prepared for it. And the only way to be prepared for it is we need to stop borrowing money.
To say that you're not going to have debt, that means you're not going to incentivize any packages, you're not going to do any capital projects. It's just not realistic.
Republican candidate Humberto Prado was unable to attend the event, which was sponsored by the League of Women Voters. Full coverage can be seen on our website at lakeshorepublicmedia.org. The candidates for Gary's mayoral race got a chance to make their case to voters at a recent debate at Indiana University Northwest. As Stephen Lattimore reports, the candidates say not enough is being done to improve the city, and one candidate made a bombshell suggestion about how to curb crime.
This is the prize they're hoping for, the big seat here at City Hall. The current mayor didn't show up at the debate, but the candidates who were there harped on specific issues: jobs, the upkeep of the city, and public safety.
You almost make it impossible for residents to be good residents.
There are 3 Democratic challengers in the upcoming Gary mayoral race. They include Robert L. Buggs Sr. Buggs is a former adjunct professor of criminal justice, board member with the Gary Public Library and the Urban League, and former president of the local NAACP. Jim Nowacki is a real estate investor who is very proud of his attendance at various city board meetings. And Joe L. White is a consultant and former member of the Gary Redevelopment Board, Park Board, and Police Reorganization Commission. The Republican candidate Charles R. Smith was also at the debate. Buggs says public safety is his top priority, and that once the city is safe, everything else will fall into play.
That's the first thing I would do is what I said I would do, which is the police department, bring up the pay parity so that they have better morale, and all of us would benefit when you got a police department, fire department that's going to keep us safe, and then we can work with the school to try to get quality education.
White says he's most concerned with jobs and infrastructure. He says fixing streets, roads, and sidewalks will help draw businesses, which will improve the city.
If you don't restructure your infrastructure, then you can't drive down the street, you can't walk down the sidewalk. If you drive down the street, most of the time now, most of the young people are walking in the street. They're walking in the street because limbs are hanging over the street, grass has grown over the sidewalk, and not last and not least, economic development. But companies are not going to come in here unless you go out and sell the city. The mayor must be the greatest salesman in the city of Gary.
Nowicki says cleaning up the city would be a big part of his administration, along with getting rid of expensive consultants. He would make sure young people get opportunities that they don't currently have. He also proposed something out of the box.
We've got a failing school system. We're closing libraries. We go to the parks and find that we don't have nets on the backstops. And more than that, we criminalize our youth. I'd be very happy to say today, and I guess for the first time and publicly, I would look to legalize or decriminalize marijuana.
The Republican candidate supports better public safety, and he would get volunteers to rehab homes to create more affordable housing.
Strange how so many decades ago, Gary had the best public school system in the world. What happened? We need to go back to what we do best, and that's being the greatest people that ever existed. Gary is great. We just have to believe it again.
Candidates Buggs and Nowicki said that there was a deal on the table to sell the airport for $100 million, and that if they were mayor, they would take that deal. The current mayor says it's not a good deal because they could make more money off the airport in the long run. In Gary, Stephen Lattimore, Lakeshore Report.
A new strain of canine flu is a recent arrival to the United States and is now showing up right here in Northwest Indiana. Lakeshore Report's Steve Walsh finds out why these days you might want to keep your dog on a tight leash.
Northwest Indiana has begun to see cases of canine influenza. The virus has spread quickly in other places. Local shelters and veterinarians are beginning to take precautions to prevent the spread. To talk about it, we have Johanna Humbert, who is the executive director of the Michiana Humane Society. Joanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So they're calling this the dog flu. Tell me about this particular strain of the flu and why it's so serious.
Well, it's a flu, it's a virus, so dogs come down with a cough, with a fever, with, lethargy, that sort of thing, and it's very, very contagious, and that's the main concern throughout the dog population, is that it can spread very quickly.
And there are a couple of different strains of what they call dog flu, and this is the one that we're seeing now is out of South Korea.
This is the H3N2 virus, which is a development off of an avian flu virus. It's the first time it's been seen in the United States was when it arrived in Chicago. And so the vaccinations that they have for canine flu are they were developed for the H3N8 virus, and there's some question of how effective they are against this version of the flu.
So this is, in that sense, though this isn't transmittable to humans, it's kind of like the flu in humans. You have these various strains out there, and some are worse than others.
Some are worse than others. This one, the big fear about it is the spread. There's a lot of sort of misunderstanding of it, and there's been a little sort of sub-hysteria about that it's going to come through and kill off a lot of dogs, and that's not really the case.
Okay, so tell us about that. How dangerous, if you have a dog, I'm a dog owner, I don't know about you, but I'm a dog owner. How serious is this?
In most dogs, healthy dogs, they'll be sick for a few days, and with supportive care, hydration, keeping them calm, making sure that they're eating, that sort of thing, they'll recover within a week or two. The probably scariest thing for the humans is the cough, because if you've ever had a dog with kennel cough, it's a horrible, horrible cough, and you'll be hearing that in your dog.
Okay.
But within a couple of weeks, your dog will be healthy again, and having been through this virus, will now have some immunities against it in the future.
All right, and so you have to take precautions.
You need to keep your dog away from dogs that you don't know where they've been.
So what does that mean? I live in downtown Valparaiso. I often put the dog on a leash. We go downtown. We go to a coffee shop. I shouldn't be doing that right now?
You're probably okay to walk your dog outside on public streets, but you don't want your dog to go face to face with unfamiliar dogs that may have been in places where they would be infected.
Okay.
You certainly don't want your dog playing off-leash in a dog park with unfamiliar dogs. The chance of transmission, especially in our area where there are probably a higher percentage of foreign dogs who have come from Chicago for the weekend, that sort of thing. So you really don't want to risk your dog coming in direct contact.
So if I'm out and I'm walking the dog and we stop at a coffee shop, another dog comes up there, I might want to give the dog a bath when he gets home.
You might want to do that. This virus is very easily contained with soap and water. In the shelter environment, we use a lot of bleach solutions and sterilizing solutions to clean around, where we have a lot of dogs. But it's a pretty simple virus, as I understand it, to clean off if it gets on you.
Good place to leave it. Joanna Humbert, she's Executive Director of the Michiana Humane Society. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
This week, Indiana Senator Joe Donnelly and Senator Kelly Ayotte of New Hampshire reintroduced legislation to address prescription pain medication abuse and heroin use. Donnelly said abuse of prescription drugs and heroin use remains an enormous problem in Indiana and around the country. We must take action to address these epidemics, which impact Hoosiers in every community. Well, those struggling with such addictions often seek care in hospital emergency departments. A new study evaluated whether patients would be more successful in treatment if they began effective treatment in the emergency room. Catherine Dolph explains in this week's JAMA Report.
Like others who have struggled with drug addiction, Michael McCrorkin was no stranger to hospital emergency departments.
I was literally just enslaved to my addiction, and it was awful.
These patients often seek care in the emergency department and often are just turned away and not directed to treatment. This identification in emergency department could lead to getting more patients into care and really narrow that gap between service need and treatment.
Doctors Gail D'Onofrio and David Feline from the Yale School of Medicine and co-authors enrolled 329 patients with opioid dependence from the emergency department at Yale New Haven Hospital. One group received a referral to drug treatment. The second group underwent a brief intervention and referral to treatment. The third group was started on buprenorphine, a medication that helps ease withdrawal symptoms and drug cravings. This group also followed up in primary care for maintenance therapy.
Many of these patients were new to treatment, and some of them had experienced significant adverse consequences, including overdose, and some of them had untreated other substance use disorders and psychiatric conditions. Once they came to the primary care center, we organized their treatment and provided them that treatment for at least a 10-week period of time.
Those patients that were randomized to the buprenorphine group, almost 80% of them were in treatment at 30 days.
And this is twice the number who will be engaged in treatment if they simply receive a referral to treatment.
The study appears in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association.
We also found that those patients that were assigned to the buprenorphine group used less illicit opiates.
Michael says one of the biggest concerns he and others faced was waiting to get into treatment.
If you go to the emergency room and they'll treat you immediately versus waiting, then it's an asset.
Michael has been in recovery for 6 years and is now studying business management.
I've never seen such a bright future, and I never knew that I had it in me.
Catherine Dolph, The JAMA Report.
In order to provide buprenorphine, emergency room physicians must complete extra training on opioid dependence and receive a special waiver from the FDA. Remember, for more information on this or any of our stories, you can always find us online at www.lakeshorepublicmedia.org. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time on Lakeshore Report.
Hi, joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Marilyn Stuckert, who is the manager of the Northwest Indiana Symphony Youth Orchestra. Hello, Marilyn.
Hello, John.
Nice to have you here at Eye on the Arts, and you do a wonderful job helping the kids learn about classical music, and they perform frequently.
Oh, yes, quite often.
How often?
We have 2 concerts a year, one in the fall, which is actually December, and one for the spring semester, which is in May.
And that's coming up.
Yes, May 10th, which is Mother's Day. It's at Morton High School in Hammond at 3 p.m.
Okay. And so how many kids are in the youth orchestra?
We have about 68 right now.
Oh, it's a large group then.
It is a very large group.
And what are their age ranges?
7th and 8th grade for the string players is where they can start, and then 9th grade for the band members.
And then through what? Senior?
We have a girl who's in college right now who's
really?
with us.
Oh,
Yes.
great.
But most of them exit at senior year.
Okay. And they are really serious music students.
Very serious music students.
They all
Several of
study.
them go on to study music.
Yeah. Tell me about what will happen at the spring concert, some of the special activities that happen.
The spring concert is the one in which our 2015 concerto competition winner performs. This year it's Elena Levi. She's a junior at Chesterton High School, and she'll be performing Samuel Barber's violin concerto.
Beautiful.
In addition to that, WANUS will be handing out their Edith Root Scholarship Awards. Those are given to the students who apply, and they are used for their summer camp when they go to music schools in the summer. And then, of course, we have our graduating seniors. This year we're losing 14.
Oh, that's a big number,
It is a
isn't
big
it?
number, yes. We're going to miss them terribly. And so we do a small presentation for them, and they tell us about their future plans.
Yeah, that's nice. How does one get into the youth orchestra?
Well, we have auditions, and we have them several times a year. Our next one is on May 26th and 27th for new members. And there's music and all the information online for them to access so that they can join us. And then we do it again throughout the year.
Yeah, and then the students are active rehearsing beginning in with the school year, concurrent with the school year.
Yes, we run similar to the school year. We start the Sunday after Labor Day is our first rehearsal. We rehearse in Munster at 3 p.m.
Okay. Well, it's a full roster for those kids. That's great.
It's very full, yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you for being here to tell us about it, and thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts. Eye on the Arts is made possible in part by South Shore Arts, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.